I think we're ready. Hope everybody had a good week off. The week off came at a good time for our football team. 4 games, all non-conference, and to have the week off and kind of get back to fundamentals last week, back to basics as an offense, defense, and special team. Did a lot of drill work, did a lot of good on good. As we move into this week, as we focus on Hawaii, Hawaii is going to be a big challenge. I think Coach Rolovich doing an outstanding job there offensively. They have a quarterback that can make plays with his legs. He can make plays with his arm. They have a receiver. And I'm not going to try to pronounce a lot of these names. Ursula, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He wore 45 last year, and I remember watching him a lot last year make a ton of plays. He's wearing number 5 this year. Just has a knack to make plays, catching the ball in space. He's a great slot. Reminds me a lot of the slots that are playing at the next level. And then they've got a running back, number 22, that's hard to tackle and has great breakaway speed. And then a line of scrimmage that is downright physical and has some nastiness about them. Like how they play the game. You know, it'd be a tough challenge for us defensively because they can run it and they can throw it, and they play with a physical mindset that, quite frankly, I like when I watch tape. Defensively, they do a lot of things. They'll play a 3-3 stack and then play a 4-man front, run a number of blitzes that mix man and zone coverage behind it. It's going to be a big challenge for our football team. You know, this week as we travel to Hawaii, dealing with the travel. And then playing them at a late time. But at the end of the day, we got to focus on what we're doing this week, get a good plan together, and go out there and try to put our best foot forward.
Mike, just do you see this as sort of almost a fresh start, a reset for your team, though? You're 2-2 non-conference. You had a week off. Now you go into your 8-game conference season. Do you approach it a little bit that way?
Yeah, you know, it was the message to the team was this is our, season number 2. Right here as we start our non-conference play, and it's just like it's week 1. This week playing Hawaii, and it's it's one day at a time, 1 week at a time. Conference games are huge and are important for us, and we've got a tough task this week as we travel on the road. To play a very good football team. I think everybody watched the game against Wyoming Friday night. Saw a team that played extremely hard. Was able to move the ball offensively, played extremely well on defense. Wyoming just made a couple, a few more plays than they did. One in the kicking game that was huge, and were able to pull out the victory in overtime. But you turn on the tape doesn't lie. This is going to be a tough challenge for our football team.
This past week, what were you able to take out of, or what were you able to learn from your non-conference schedule, put into work this week, and were you able to kind of gain an identity of what you think your team is moving forward?
From watching other people play?
Just your 4 games, in non-conference play. Do you feel like you gained an identity and were able to work on those?
Yeah, I feel like you see a football team that's going to play extremely hard for 4 quarters, that has some pieces in place, where I feel like, we can make some noise in conference play. Just because we, play, pretty decent at times in those 4 games is not going to guarantee anything in this conference. I think our conference is extremely strong. I think we've got guys that can make, plays in every team because you've got experienced quarterbacks on a lot of teams, and here's one we're playing this week in Hawaii. But what I saw out of the first 4 weeks from our football team is that, we're going to play for 60 minutes. If we can clean up some of the things, fundamentally the little things that can cost you games, if we can clean some of those things up and limit those things, we'll have a chance to be in every football game.
Just what are some of the unique challenges to traveling to Hawaii? Obviously, it's a long trip. It's a different game. You're going a day earlier, I believe. What are some of the unique challenges you face as a program doing that?
No, I've never been and played there, so I don't. I did play in the Hula Bowl when I graduated from college. That was in Maui, but we were out there a week, and we practiced from like 8 to 9:15 every day, and then we were kind of allowed to do what we want after that and hang out at the pool and at the beach. So this will be a little bit different trip. Obviously the long flight. You've got a long flight. The time change. Being playing. basically 10 o'clock Mountain Time on Saturday. All those are issues. You've talked to a lot of people that have done a lot of different things, that some say go a day early, some say, go the day before. But I think the common theme is, don't overanalyze it. I think a lot to do, like similar when guys come here to play. Don't, take the appropriate steps to, dealing with playing in the altitude. We're going to take the appropriate steps of walking around on the airplane, wearing certain kind of tights when we travel, getting our sleep. But at the end of the day, we're going to kick off at 10 o'clock our time. That's when we're kicking it off, and I expect our team to be ready to play, whether we're kicking off at 9 a.m. Or 10 p.m. And that's how we're going to approach it.
Will you leave early then?
We are going to leave Thursday.
Okay.
We're going to leave. We'll do meetings Thursday morning here, and then we'll head to the airport. And then when we get there, after we eat, we'll do a walkthrough Thursday, and very similar to our normal Thursday. There'll just be a huge break of time between the meetings and the walkthrough, and then Friday we'll be back on our normal schedule, and then Saturday will be a game day schedule.
I know you have a database of cut-ups of what Hawaii does to tendencies and things like that, but can you gain something from watching Hawaii play or Wyoming live and see how things go and maybe how they think as the game is going on?
Yeah, that's a good point. And a lot of times you start with how your breakdown of a team is a lot to do with cut-ups, down and distance, formations, different concepts that they do out of different formations offensively and defensively. And then you kind of go back and try to watch it as a game and get a feel for the play caller on both sides of the ball, how he likes to call a game. But sometimes when you watch one on TV, it's a little bit more real because you can feel the emotion of the game and how it's happening, the kind of the ebbs and flows, where you're just watching, a game straight through on tape sometimes. Like a lot of times I'm watching the defensive side, and not, but when you watch it all together, offense, defense, special teams, you can kind of feel how the game's going and how they react to things going well in the game or things not going well. So it's a little, I try to watch as much football as I can. We don't have a lot of time, and I'll record a lot of our Mountain West games, to go back and try to watch, later and try to just see how they react, during the ebbs and flows of a complete game. And sometimes I have to turn down the announcers, so I don't listen to the announcers because they'll mess with your mind a little bit sometimes if you listen to them. You just try to watch it and get a feeling for it yourself.
You had mentioned a few banged up guys last week. Did the bye week serve you guys well from an injury standpoint?
We just walked out of a staff meeting, and I feel really good about Ben Knox being able to play this week, our right tackle who's missed the last 2 games, I believe. Last 2 games. Feel good about him. Colby Meeks, who did practice last week, I think is getting closer to where he was at the start of the season, but he'll still be a little bit banged up. Jeff Taylor is probably doubtful for this week on the offensive line. So, still got a few issues there, but we're getting closer to being where we were when we started the season. Trey Smith will still probably not be back this week, a receiver. Defensively, Richard King looks like he'll be able to good to go this week, who missed basically all last week practice. Kyle Robinson is probably going to be doubtful this week. Linebacker 15 is dealing with a toe injury. Christian Colon will get back and practice some this week. Probably not be ready to play this week, but hopefully by next week if he can put himself in position where he can help us. So overall, the team health is getting better. Anytime you get a week off from playing a game, the physicality of playing a game, and 2 less days of practice as well. You guys are getting closer to being back where they were at the beginning of the season.
In addition to those injuries and getting healthier, have you noticed just a different mindset in your team having that extra rest before some other teams in the conference?
Well, if you could ask me that tomorrow, maybe. I haven't seen our guys because yesterday was our scheduled day off in the 7 days, and then we have a team meeting today at 2:15. But I expect our guys to come out and. We talked about it before we left. This is a great chance to, if you got a chance to go see your family. If not, to get rested and get recharged. because kind of what Kelly was asking at the beginning, it's the second part of our season. This is season 2. We need to have the right frame of mind when we approach practice today. We all know what our goal is as a football team, and, we got to handle our business every single day and take nothing for granted, and use this time this weekend, to get rested, to get recharged for a long stretch of 8 games in a row going to, we're one game at a time, but we're about to go, across to Hawaii, and then we come back and we go to Utah State, back home, then we go to New Mexico in a short week. 3 out of our first 4 games are on the road in conference, and one of them, in a short week against an option team. So, use this. I talked about those things. We got a big stretch, coming ahead of us. It's got to be one day at a time, but don't take this rest that you have for granted. Get rested, get recharged, and we ought to have the enthusiasm to attack this thing like what we want to be as champions.
2 things. One, how did your Robert Amanganye experiment go, and what did you come away with? And then 2, the one guy we haven't really talked about in your offensive line is Nicho Garcia, his first-year starter, who started every game. How has he looked and how has he progressed?
Robert Awagani, we moved to receiver on Tuesday. Well, Tuesday he got probably 15 minutes of practice at receiver. We saw enough where we wanted to move him over for Wednesday and Thursday's practice, where he sat in Coach Whitted's meeting. We feel good about Robert. We're going to put him at receiver going forward this week and see if he can have a chance to break in the rotation. Saw enough of his skill set to possibly do that. He was getting 0 snaps at defensive back. He's still going to be a special teams player for us. We have some depth issues at receiver, and I want to create some competition, and I feel like we've done that and had really, 2 pretty good practices after Tuesday at the receiver position. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do this week. Now, how much can he handle? How much will he be ready to play? That remains to be seen. We got to do a good job of getting him prepared and what he can handle going into this week. And then Nicho Garcia is a guy, that's been through a lot since he's been here, but has done the things that we've asked him to do on the field and off the field, and has changed his body. He's worked extremely hard, and probably plays with more toughness and tenacity than anybody we got up front. And he's a guy that wants to do things right and is working extremely hard and has been a productive contributor for us up front. And I think he's only going to get better the more snaps he plays. Now, he's lost a lot of weight. We got to get his weight probably back up to where he could be have a chance to be an elite player. But he's doing a nice job.
Mike, just as you look around the conference, how do you feel about your team being a contender now that you've gotten a chance to see a little bit of everybody in this conference?
Well, I think every team's goal is to compete for a championship, and on their side, try to be the one that represents in the conference championship game. And I think I see a lot of teams out there that could play for the championship this year, and I think we haven't run away from the fact that we would like to represent our side, but at the same time, we've got to do things every day and get better. We've got to get better on a daily basis and improve throughout this year to have a chance. And the first step to that is handling our business this week and getting ready to play Hawaii. Now, to sit here and compare to other teams and say, hey, yeah, we match up well against this team, that team, That's not what I'm about. I'm about trying to get better as a football team and handling our guys week in and week out. And if we'll do that, then hopefully we'll be in the position to have a chance late in the year.
When you look at Hawaii and you're the top 2 offenses in the conference in terms of yards generated. What do you see in Rolo's offense in terms of the different influences he's had in his career and his coaching career that you see in that Rainbow offense right now?
Well, you obviously have got, you see an offense that wants to establish the run and try to be physical. And I think that starts with their offensive line. They play extremely hard. They finish, through the whistle every play. They're going to test us up front because they play the way you're supposed to play every single snap. They get after it. And then they've got skill positions outside. They've got a trigger man that can do certain things. So, you've got to, I want to be physical. I want to run the ball, establish the run, but then you've got the spread philosophies of, where he's been and some run and shoot stuff, the pistol stuff, a lot of different offense in what they do. So they're gonna test you. They're not just a spread team that's gonna run the zone read and throw bubbles. I mean, they're gonna get behind their pads and come run downhill, have hard play action. Then they're gonna run the spread screens and try to spread you out and get you out in space. But at the end of the day, they want to be physical and they want to establish a run.
Mike, this is the first time we've gotten to talk to you since the state pride uniforms were unveiled. What are your thoughts on them, and how did the team receive those?
Well, I think they unveiled them when we were at practice. I think they did. We had a couple guys obviously try them on, and I'm sure, word got out. I believe I told the seniors when I had them at the house in camp, which was July, not August, that I showed them a picture of the helmet. And they're extremely excited about them. They think they look cool. I think it's a great thing that we live in a great state, and to honor our state and be the university to do that. That's something I'm extremely excited about. I was on the road on Friday in this state, and if one person said something to me, 100 people did. I mean, I had nothing but positive feedback from a lot of people that thought the uniforms were awesome because of what we were doing, representing our state, the state pride thing. And, obviously some of them were Colorado State fans, but a lot of them just people that live in this state that thought that it was really cool that we were representing the state. So I'm excited about that.
I guess another thing, your team's never on the field for a national anthem, but just what are your thoughts on the whole NFL protests, and would you want your team on the field to give them a chance to express their beliefs?
Well, it's something that you obviously think about these things when they're out there and they're involved in the sport that you're involved in, and it's something that in college athletics we're not out there for the national anthem. But to me, we live in the greatest country in the world, and it's the greatest country in the world because of the freedom that we have. And I would be respectful to if any of my players wanted to express themselves. That's in the country that we live in. It's a free country and able to do what they want to do. Now, would I do that? I think it's each his own personal opinions and personal beliefs. Tony? I can hear you.
I'm doing a piece on Zach Woolridge, and I wanted to ask you about the experience you had with him going to Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
And what it was like for you, and also what it was like for you to be with him.
Well, it was, how long ago was that? That was about maybe a year and a half ago. We had a chance to go to the Children's Hospital of Denver and talked about, getting some guys to go with us. And it was in a time, I believe our guys were out of school at this time and just throwing around some names. And Zach was a name that came up. And Zach, I believe, was at home at the time, and met us there. I believe he was at home in Denver and decided to meet us there. And it was something that I'd always done while we were at the University of Georgia when we played Georgia Tech every year. We would split up kind of offense and defense, and one go to one hospital and the other would go to Children's Hospital. And it was always, good for me. It was always good for our players to go there and, let these kids and, see, a football player or a coach and come by, and then a chance for you to just touch somebody that's going through something that you possibly can't even imagine. And it's always something good to go do. But Zach, that day, I'm the head coach and we're going around, but Zach just kind of took control in every room that we walked in. He was almost the first one to speak. He would walk over and talk to that child or that parent. He was very engaging. He was just very giving of himself. And, I talked about Zach last week with Mike, and Zach is just, it's never about Zach, really. It's about the other person. Zach is about serving, and I'm a firm believer that you put on this earth to serve other people, and Zach's a great example of that. It's not about Zach Goldich; it's about him trying to help other people, and that day was a great example of that. Zach's having an outstanding year for us. He's a very good football player. Coach Friend, our offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, stays on Zach constantly because Zach has the potential to be a really, really good player. And he is day in and day out. He practices extremely hard. He is always, doesn't matter how hard coach is getting on him, he's always listening, always trying to improve. And he's a guy that's playing really well. And sometimes when guys are playing really well and doing the right things and get challenged and get pushed, there's always a little resentment. Why is he always on me? But that's not Zach. He's always trying to improve. He's open to criticism. He's open to coaching. And sometimes it's hard coaching. He doesn't get defensive about getting coached hard and being pushed. And I think he's improving week by week since this year and since I've been here.
I know when you came here, you didn't know any of the players or anything like that. I'm sure when you came across his story, you were kind of intrigued.
Right.
What's been your impression of him, knowing that he was that kid
Right.
now?
Yeah, when you come in and you're a new coach, you go over the whole board, and we had some coaches that were here on the previous staff and talking about each guy, and Coach English, was a holdover coach, and obviously he recruited Zach and kind of, told his story, and you're like, oh my gosh, we have a kid on our team that was involved in, something, really tragic and horrific, and then when you meet him, it's never why me. It's never why did this happen to me, or why is Coach Friend on me all the time, or why are they pushing me to be the best. It's never why. It's always how can I get better. Today's a new day. I'm here to serve. I'm here the best I can be. It's nothing about I went through this, or I had back surgery, or I had this go wrong, or my foot's hurting, or I was involved in this shooting. It's hey, I'm lucky to be alive today. I'm going to take advantage of today, and I'm going to be the best Zach Goldich I can be, the best teammate I can be, the best citizen I can be, the best student I can be. That's kind of how he approaches every day. And I don't know if I never asked him if that's because he went through that night in that theater, and he made up his mind that that's how he was going to live his life from that point on, or if that's how he's always been. My time with him in the last 3 years, that's just how Zach is. Every single day he wants to be the best Zach Goldich he can be.
I know he's a candidate for the Work Award. When you look at him and what he does and how he represents CSU, it must be kind of cool for you to look at that and say, this is the guy who's
Yeah, that's Danny Werfel was a special, young man. Not just the way he played the game, but just how he carried himself. It wasn't about Danny Werfel. We came around at the same time. It was about him, serving others. And to me, that's Zach Goldich. He's the ultimate teammate. He is a guy that represents, your football team the right way, your university the right way. He's a guy that when you look at your own kids at your house, you wish they'd grow up to be like Zach Goldich, the way he carries himself.